You never make this full screen, do you?
I thought it was still full
shit.
screen. Wow, language. What?
I mean, shit.
What? You didn't send out the text?
I forgot to send out the
you
text.
You didn't do the thing?
I didn't do the stuff and things.
Oh, boy.
Hold on.
Are we live?
Yeah. Can I still copy the link?
The thing? It might be too late. Oh, my gosh. Can you really share from there? What does it say?
I can.
Hi, guys. So,
yeah, you do the face thing.
Okay, so what had happened was we meant to send out a text and also let Facebook know we were about to go live, but by that I mean Jay, actually forgot that part. So we are, and by we, I mean Jay is doing that now, which is why you can probably only see me, although I can't see you right now because she is doing the stuff and things. I don't know if, are you really going to be able to do that? We'll be right with you. I thought we were doing good.
I know.
Did you test the audio?
No. Listen, we take a week off and we don't know what the hell we're doing anymore.
Test two.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Hi guys.
Testing.
Yes, we're here.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
See if that works. Perfect.
Okay.
That
cool.
works. All right.
Wow, we usually do this all beforehand, but we took a week off and I completely forgot how to do a podcast. Hey guys. Oh my. Okay. Yes. Hello.
Her holy crap, what am I doing face? That's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, that was
now.
Right now.
Hi guys. Happy
hello. Happy Sunday.
I think we're all good now, huh?
I think so. I think I turned the brightness up for our
the lighting looks weird to me, but let's just go with it.
We're just gonna go with it. Hey everyone. You thought we were frozen, didn't you? No, we just literally froze.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a good podcast today. I think we haven't really discussed that.
Well, I was thinking this is going to be exciting because you have done so much more research into diet than I have. And so here's the thing: when it comes, we should probably start the podcast.
Are you gonna go ahead and start the podcast?
Yeah, we should do that because I have questions.
Okay.
Yeah, we should probably wait till we start.
Let's do a Q&A, Adrian style.
Q&A.
Oh my!
It's not going to be that good.
Welcome to episode number 0088 of Back in the Closet with the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. We are sitting in the closet in our camping chairs.
We have no babies with us right now.
No,
I really thought the girls would join us, but apparently they're taking a rain check on hanging out.
Yeah, they didn't really hang out with us during our VIP live or a little bit in the interview.
They're loving their catwalk today.
Yeah.
They're up there just bathing and snuggling each other. It's like, what
it's a beautiful
life.
Day here. It's like fall hit today.
Yeah.
It's like the weather, the temperature dropped, and I know like a lot of you would be like, it's still 90. What I think the high was 95 today.
95 today.
Yeah, the weather app said
breeze.
the weather's it's 95 degrees. That is not fall, but here without the humidity and with it being in the 60s and 70s in the morning and the 70s in the evening.
It's amazing.
And the crisp breeze going through it actually is fabulous.
Oh, it feels so
I feel
good.
like this light is so bright you can see straight through my white shirt into my bra.
Wow.
Not into my bra, but to my bra.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's padded enough that you can't see through the bra.
Well, let's hope.
But the light is very bright here on YouTube.
So
anyway.
Let's get our lives together. Let's start with the toast, shall we? All right.
Why did you take my glass?
Oh, that's my bad. I just put them down in the wrong spots.
Oh.
Whoopsie-daisies.
Yours wasn't bad, though. I've already taken a sip.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I have watermelon vodka.
Wait, what are we cheersing to?
The beginning of this podcast, which is about grains and carbs in our cat's food. And what I'm excited about is asking you some questions because where I'm coming from is you see whole bodies of research that really talk about the effects of a lot of these things, especially
like how good corn, wheat, and soy is for our cats.
Well,
yes, there are studies.
There
out
are
there
lots of studies.
Yeah,
there are lots of studies. here's what I'm looking at. And you and I both know, to ruin the surprise, we feed a species appropriate, fully balanced, raw diet to all of our cats. But for any of you guys that have followed us for any amount of time, you guys know that I, 5 years ago, would have nothing to do with that. And I felt like Jay was going to kill our cats when she started doing
that. And I felt like I was going to save them if I did. Correct. So it was like, she thinks I'm going to kill them. I think I'm going to save their lives. And it was like, who wins?
Yeah.
Jay wins.
We all know where that.
That's the way it usually goes. Jay's usually right. I won't say I'm always right.
Correct. However, here's the thing, is that there's all this research out there that talks about the fact that cats are obligate carnivores, that they're 95.6% identical to tigers, that the biological nutritional requirements that cats have need real meat. The interview that we did today, even with Dr. Katie Woodley, talking specifically, we were talking about cat cancer, but she was talking about the incredible importance of foundational nutrition for gut health and immunity health. And that's the science I'm talking about. What I have not done is, like, once you know that, and once I realized the cats weren't going to die when they were given the food that their bodies actually need, then there comes all this other information and so many questions about grain-free diets.
Well, we thought let's back it up, because we learned about grain-free diets way prior to
and we're feeding grain-free diets.
Well, sure, as a species appropriate, of course, a species appropriate diet is grain-free. It's also carb-free, but we switched over from when we were feeding kibble.
Right.
We switched over because you guys remember that there was a big fad. It was a huge fad going on. But big to do, right? It was like, stop feeding your pets grains, especially cats. Like, go grain free with the diets, and everybody came out with a grain free diet, and we were like on that bandwagon. Correct. And we switched our kibble from a crappy, very, like probably rice, corn, wheat, and soy as the first 4 ingredients, to, after learning this, to a grain-free diet, which it did say grain-free, but it also had meat as the first 4 or 5 ingredients.
Right.
And we saw a big difference in our cats, just switching the kibble, right? We saw a big difference.
Still kibble.
The hairballs were like barely happening. Like, they were still happening, but not like today with the hairballs, but it was like it happened from like every cat having a hairball every day almost to like, I don't know, once a week, maybe twice a week.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, we're not having to clean up hairballs anymore. So grain-free is good.
Me.
So grain-free is good. And then you learn more, and the more you, what is the term? You learn more, do better. What is it?
When we learn, the better we do.
Yeah, but it's
probably not that. I don't know. Now I feel completely confused.
No better, do better.
No better, do better. There it is.
No better. So yeah. So learn, share, grow. The more you learn, the better you do. Right. So.
But this is the question, and let's just get right down to the crux of it.
Okay, because you still haven't asked the question.
Well, the question is, what is the difference between when you have a grain-free diet? There's so many diets out there now that are grain-free, but they are replacing the grains with
carbohydrates and starches. Yes. So, and this is mainly for the kibble diets, right? But all of a sudden, the research is coming out, and it's like, actually, this is not. In fact, we switched from grain diets, and the amount of cats with diabetes went skyrocket. Like, when you look at the studies of how, like,
feeling diabetes was like
as soon as grain free came out and everybody went grain free, then all of a sudden cats start getting diabetes, and other things as well, inflammatory induced issues. And it was like, what could that be? Why could that be? And when you look at when you look at it, actually, just with common sense or a little bit of logic, like, which we didn't at that time, but now looking at it, it's that they have to, in kibble, you have like the options of grains, you've got carbs and starches, and then you've got fat. Fat will not hold together a piece of kibble. It'll go rancid. It will go bad. It doesn't have the shelf life.
Kibble
The
goes
only
rancid
way that you could,
pretty quickly once exposed to oxygen to begin with.
Yeah, already. But you can't put a little piece of dry food together and hold it together and cook it to that high umph degree without these ingredients, right? So what they did was they took out the grains and then they replaced them with carbohydrates. And what most of cat parents, as including us at the time, did not know is that cats specifically were not created and are not created to digest grains or carbohydrates, right? So the amount of carbohydrates we were replacing it with rice and potatoes and pea protein and all these other things, and we're still getting the influx of, especially with the grains and the carbs and starches converting to sugar in the body, raising those insulin rates, creating an epidemic of diabetes in cats because we're switching from grains to carbohydrates. That's what we're doing. We're just replacing one with the other instead of, as you said, cats being obligate carnivores and needing the majority of their diet to be animal protein, not pea protein, not soy protein, animal protein.
But here's the thing: is that I feel like, and to kick it,
wow, use your words.
I know it's because I'm still so vibing off of Dr. Katie's talk today about cat cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But as she was saying today, I think she kept reiterating the importance of reading the ingredient panel. And I think for me, that was a huge, I didn't know what I was reading. Like you're talking about carbs or grains, right? Like, and I get that seems like a lot of common sense, but when you're looking at an ingredient pan, I think most of us look at the front of the bag and it says grain-free, all natural, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and it has a bunch of pictures
really
of meat
beautiful pictures of colorful meat and all that kind of stuff. Or if they're showing, well, I mean, it's like beautiful salmon and whatever, it looks so beautiful. Like, wow, this is in the bag. And that's about as far as we get as far as reading those ingredients.
Yeah.
So identify some of the, like the peas and stuff like that. Like pea protein is a big one right now.
Mm-hmm.
Legumes right?
Are a big one.
Big ones. So what do we need to be looking for and where do we find what we actually need to know? Because it's not on the front of the bag.
No, you have to look at the ingredients on anything, and this goes for yourself too.
But what's your baseline of reading an ingredient panel? The first time you told me how to read it, when it says chicken is the first first ingredient, do you know what I mean? Like get into the how to help us know, even if it says a grain-free diet, if we see A, B, or C.
Right. So when you're reading the ingredient list, what you ideally, I mean, just to keep it as simple as possible so anybody can kind of follow that, right? First of all, I mean, a species appropriate moisture-rich diet is absolutely the diet. You don't want to be feeding kibble to your cats anyway, okay? Just because it's either going to have the grains or carbs, and it's going to be a high percentage. I think carnivore is the only one that I know of that's less than 20%, and it's 19. And in honesty, like even so many holistic and integrative vets will say you definitely want it, less than 20% is what, like even Dr. Katie said today. Yeah. She's like, you want at least 80% meat.
Right.
And
those other carbs are going to be fats, and they're going to be but I mean, you're not going to find that in kibble. Right. But the other carbs would be green leafy veggies, right? Like stuff that is not necessarily converting into sugar in the body and creating this inflammation response that's creating all of these other issues that our cats are dealing with, or converting into sugar and creating an insulin response. Like that's not what we want. What we ideally want is for the first 4 or 5 ingredients to be meat, animal protein. So not meat, not the word meat, because that means anything, but chicken, beef, bison, venison, identifying the meat. Obviously you always want to know the source too, because chicken doesn't mean chicken, the same chicken that you
pick up at the market. In
And
all
it's worth
cases.
noting that with kibble, especially when they do list ingredients by the amount included,
which is why you want it the first 4 or 5 ingredients, not just the first ingredient. You see all those commercials because they're like, the first ingredient is always meat. And you're like, yes, that's good, because we all know that it has to be listed by ingredient, listed like, by amount. Right. So everybody's like, chicken's the number 1 ingredient. Awesome. Second ingredient, rice. Okay. Now, what many people don't know is that they weigh they list based on weight of the product before it is put into the high heat processing. Okay. So you take a chicken, and just like, it's how much percentage of water, right? It weighs this much. And so we're like, yes, first ingredient. Absolutely. You put it as the first ingredient. And rice is the second ingredient. Then we cook it to 400 plus degrees. And now, what is actually number 1 ingredient? That second ingredient, that rice, that soy, that chicken, cornmeal.
Chicken being completely dehydrated versus rice being completely dehydrated. There's not a big difference in mass for rice, but there is with chicken, yet it's listed as the first ingredient. So that's what I'm saying about like the understanding how ingredients, especially when it comes to kibbles, because that is
kibbles,
the dry foods,
the kibbles,
because I think that that's really illuminating for so many people, especially when they start thinking about feeding their cat towards health.
Yeah.
That is a big a big moment of revelation.
Yeah, I mean, what we want the basics here are, our cats are not created to digest grains or carbohydrates, right? In the wild, the amount of carbohydrates that our cats will consume is about 2%, and that's consisting of the stomach matter, right? Of the herbivore that they just consumed, right? That's when they eat the intestines of the mouse, say. And the mouse has eaten, sure, some bugs and stuff, but some plants, or the rabbit, a vegan, right? Eating only the plants. And that's the amount of carbohydrates, if you will, that they will consume. When we're feeding these high carb diets or high carb diets, right? Or high starch diets, that they are, labeling, it's at least 40% protein. And the second ingredient is pea protein. You're like, okay, but that's not animal protein. And our obligate carnivores need animal protein because they're carnivores. So they need animal protein in order to not just thrive, but survive. I mean, we can nutritionally abuse them pretty well. They're resilient animals, but we don't want to. Right. We don't want our family members to just survive. We want them to thrive. So in basics, we want to make sure that we are feeding a diet that is very high in animal protein and very low in starch or carb, or grains for that matter, if you're going to.
So to simplify for me, if you're looking at a kibble, mm-hmm. and it says grain free, which we saw like the benefits 15 years ago of feeding a grain free kibble, mm-hmm. right? What do we need to look for to see if that's the direction that we need to be going? What is it replaced with? Tell us what's identifiable ingredients that we need to be watching for, because as you just mentioned, when
I just mentioned them.
Well, but reiterate, because I think that it's you take out the grains,
right?
But they're replaced with
peas, potatoes, rice, legumes, and these are all, it's not like these are all like super unhealthy. I don't like rice at all, but it's not like these are super unhealthy ingredients. But if we have the first 4 or 5 ingredients as meat, then we know that the 6th ingredient of, say, potatoes or pea protein or legumes or something like that is going to be a smaller percentage. So we're still feeding a higher quality diet, if you will. So we're feeding a higher meat-based diet to our obligate carnivores, and they're getting less of those carbs and starches.
Are you generally more, because I think we're on this, I think everyone here is on the same page, that a moisture-rich diet, a wet food diet, a canned food diet is always going to be better than a kibble in general.
Well, it's going to be less processed, so it's 100% just for the fact that it's less processed is going to be better. But I would still want the first several ingredients to be meat-based, animal protein.
So regardless if it's a grain-free wet food, it's still about identifying those first 4 or 5 or 6 ingredients as animal protein.
Yeah, several ingredients. I mean, I guess it probably doesn't take as much. I mean, it's still processed. It's still high heat processed, just not as high heat processed for wet food, right? But I would still want at least the first 3 ingredients to be a meat based. If we're going to feed that on a regular basis, I'm not saying like for a treat here and there or something like that, but I would want the first few ingredients to be animal protein. Yeah. I mean, that's why a species appropriate fresh food diet is so good. I mean, I actually add back in, just because our raw diet that we feed our cats is like 98%, probably 95+% animal protein. Like that is what our cats get. And then, there's, vitamins and minerals and other things in there. But I add back in the organic, fresh, fermented. I add back in organic fermented veggies into our cat's diet, just because I still want the benefits of those. It's not that those are bad. They are actually very good, even if it's not species appropriate, if you will. It's not something that they would get as much of in the wild. It's still really good for them. Those green leafy veggies are full of antioxidants. They're full of cancer fighting agents. They're full of a lot of really good things for our cats. So feeding our cats that is not a bad thing, especially if it's fresh, especially if it's organic. Fermented is just a little bit, awesomer. Awesomer. But it is, but it's not, we just don't want that in our commercial pet foods that we're feeding. We don't want a high percentage of that.
Do you have an opinion on, we both agree that a fed cat is always a better situation than a starving cat. So if someone's in a situation where they can only feed kibble, would you recommend going grain free, or would you recommend a kibble or wet food for that matter that does not specify that it's grain free?
Okay, so first of all, if we have a starving cat, I would feed them McDonald's French fries, because yes, a fed cat is always better than a starving cat, for sure. If that's the only thing you have on hand and you have a starving cat,
feed the cat.
Feed the cat. When it comes to my issue, when it comes to grains versus these carbs, is, and I don't know what I only know the studies that I've seen. It could be in a lot of the legumes as well. But when it comes to the grains like corn, wheat, and soy, we're dealing with extra issues like mycotoxins, right? Which can create so many illnesses in cat, because the way that they're mass manufactured, the way that they are GMO, the way that,
how they're treated.
Yeah, how they're treated, how they're like, you just can't find that, especially if you're feeding a very popular pet food, like, made by Mars or Nestle or Colgate or, Smuckers or any of those. They're mass manufactured. They are definitely the corn, the wheat gluten, the corn meal, the corn, like all of this is mass manufactured and contains, as recent studies have shown, toxins, right, that have been led to cancer, that have been linked to hyperthyroidism, that have been linked to a lot of diseases that our cats deal with these days. So if the choice was between on a tight budget between a grain-free or non-grain-free, I would still go grain-free. But I would still look at the ingredient list and see if you can find, and I do believe that there are some that are at least more affordable that have meat as, I mean, there's some out there that meat's not even the first ingredient.
Right.
We have some like
Right.
that we bought for props, and
Right.
it's like
remarkable.
Corn gluten meal is the first ingredient, and you're like, wow. And yet the picture shows meat on the front.
Yeah, pretty meat.
Yeah.
Pretty meat.
Yeah. But yeah, I would still go grain free just for that simple fact. Personally.
I think it's fascinating. And I think that it is one of the most foundational things for us cat parents to really start hammering home every time we go to get our cats food, whatever it is, even if it's something they've been eating for the last 15 years and they're fine, right? They're absolutely fine. It's so important for us cat parents to really get a grip on the ingredient list and understand what it is. Even when we've said for so long, you want to be able to identify the ingredients that you're reading. And of course, sweet potatoes sound good. Corn sounds good.
And they're not all, I mean, sweet potatoes are not always bad, actually.
No,
you know, like sometimes you want to feed sweet potatoes. Yeah.
Right, by itself. But when you're looking at where they land in the ingredient, just getting familiar with reading the ingredient panel, the nutritional information for the foods that we're putting in our cats, I think is huge. And I think while it may not mean that you're going to switch up the food that you're feeding right now, it's going to start that wheel turning of how do you say it, or someone said it, we're either feeding health or we're moving forward or we're moving back. Like you're either feeding health or you're not. And there are things that was profound, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was profound.
It's not how you said it.
It was one of our podcasts that we did before.
I know, but that's not how you said it.
I don't remember.
But I think, for us, if we sit around and eat
McDonald's
fast food, lollipops, ice cream all day long, we're not giving our body what it needs versus giving ourselves some whole foods, some plants, some real fresh foods. Has not been ultra processed. We feel a difference in ourselves as well. Yeah. So I just think it's fascinating because it's like grains or carbs.
It's like everybody thinks that there's just like you have to do one or the other.
One or the other.
You have to choose. Are we going to do grains or are we going to do carbs? And I think if it's at all possible, there's some amazing recipes out there where you can make your food at home on a budget by yourself. We actually have a YouTube playlist with some of those recipes, and you can make the food at home by yourself. You can gently cook it yourself. You can feed it raw yourself. And these are really healthy foods, and you're saving money from buying even a good quality kibble. You're saving
money than even buying. Yeah. And there's a great new resource out there for anyone who is interested in doing that. freshfoodconsultants.org, and they'll actually formulate fully balanced diets that you can make at home. And I think that's such a gift to so many fresh feeders, because I think that a lot of us feel like you said, you've got to make a choice between grains or carbs when you're feeding processed foods, and sometimes that is the only option. So it's honestly, I've always kind of wondered what's worse in your head, and I don't know that I've ever really realized that you would probably go with carbs over grains.
Yeah, I mean, even though both are going to invoke an inflammatory response,
biologically appropriate.
Both
for
of them,
cats,
yeah,
right.
Both of them will create digestive upset for sure. But if we had to choose, just because the carbohydrates usually have less toxins in them than the grains, it's the same reason why we were talking the other day in the thread. I don't know if you were on it, but talking about how I don't like corn, wheat, or soy litters,
right, for
that matter, because of the mycotoxins that are in these ingredients.
Right.
And it's like our cats are going to ingest them. And then there was somebody that we know recently, she runs a pet shop, and she had a client that came in, and she lost her dog to eating, because he was consuming slowly over time, little bits and pieces of this corn-based soy or corn-based litter that her cat that she was using for a cat, and found out that it was because of the mycotoxins within the litter feeding a fresh food diet, the dog still got super sick. I think the dog died. And that's so sad. And it's like, whoa, I thought I was doing really good by not using clay litter.
Right.
But then you're like, wow, like it's and we don't want to overwhelm everybody by being like, don't use clay litter, but also don't use corn, and also don't use soy, and also you don't use wheat, and we don't want to freak out every company out there either. But it is, it's a thing. And you think about the dog that was consuming the litter, and then you think about the cat that's also consuming the litter, because cats groom themselves, and those
those small doses over time.
Those little grains are always in their paws because they're digging in the litter. So they are eating, they are consuming that. And if there's toxins in them, those paw pads are a very vascular piece of their body where they are absorbing toxins directly through into their bloodstream. So yeah, I would go with carbs. I've never been asked that question.
Oh, I know. We've talked about it so much. At the same time, it's almost like I don't completely understand where you're coming from, because this is what we're feeding, right? So every time where I've heard you talk with clients on the phone, I'm always clued in on how you help coach people on their choices for diet, depending on what's going on.
Right.
But it's because for me, I'm one of those people that once I know that we're feeding a species appropriate, balanced raw food diet, I'm not worried, and I'm okay with it now. I don't really know what to think of the carbs or the grains, because neither one of them are biologically appropriate. You know what I mean? I've just never really formed my own opinion on it. So it's kind of fun to pick your brain on it.
That is fun.
It was.
Yeah, It's fun. I've never picked my brain on that. So that was fun. All right. So that's going to wrap up this episode.
That'll do it, my dog.
But two crazy cat ladies back in the closet. Speaking of fresh foods, I'm about to go make spaghetti sauce.
I know. That's all I can think about right now. She's making spaghetti, or as she says it, spaghetti.
I used to say spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
I'm from Arkansas.
I'm very excited about it.
Whatever. So thank you guys so much for joining this episode. If you like it, please subscribe and join us next week. We will be back. We love you guys, and wherever you are and whatever you're doing, we hope you're having a beautiful day.
Be blessed.
Mwah.
Bye, y'all.